Okay. All right. Get my stuff here. Okay, I want to call the Hopkinton Town Council remote meeting of May 18th, 2020 to order with a moment of silent meditation and salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to
Pledge
the flag
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Hey, we're doing better on that.
Yeah, I paid all the other people saying it.
I know. Okay, so we have in attendance tonight at Town Hall, myself, Council President Frank Landolfi, Town Manager Bill McGarry, Vice President Scott Bill Hurst, and Councilor Sylvia Thompson at Town Hall. Out in the, at home, I guess, or wherever you are, Sharon Davis, as well as Councilor Barbara Capalbo, Lisa Cook Martin, and Kevin McAllister. Okay. All right, first up, the consent agenda. Approved Town Council meeting minutes of April 20th, 2020, except the following monthly financial activity report, Town Clerk.
Don't move.
Second.
Scott made the motion. Sharon, I believe, seconded it.
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, thank you. Okay, first public forum, anything on the agenda, anyone in the public wishing to weigh in on that, just raise your hand. I'll unmute you and you'll have any opportunity you want to speak about what's on the agenda. Oh, here's Jeff. Jeff, I don't think anyone else can see you.
What is this?
Oh.
Aye. On it on aye. There you go.
It up on high.
Yeah, I'm on the computer. I'm not sure why
Yeah.
it's not popping up.
Yeah, I see you now.
Good to see you, Frank.
Good to see you too, Jeff.
I can't see you, Frank.
You can't see me? You guys have the floor. I see you. Oh. No. Carolyn, the audio is not, now I can't hear you. Oh, say again?
Can you hear me now?
Now we can, yes.
Okay, I just repeat myself, Carolyn Light, 43 Forest Glen Drive, Hope Valley, Rhode Island. I'm joining the meeting tonight because I want to support the town in vehemently opposing any decision by the Charahoe School Committee to pass the 2020-2021 budget without the taxpayers' vote, or the residents' vote, both.
Okay.
And that's the only comment I have for you. Thank you.
Okay. Jeff, are you all set? Yeah. Jeff, yeah, I can't hear you. Jeff, you there? Can't hear you. Jeff, you there? No.
Unmute.
Yeah.
Not unmute yourself.
You unmuted me, Frank?
Frank,
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you had muted me is what my screen said.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I support everything my wife said. We speak in unison. Thank you for asking.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Yes, it's not working. Hey, guys, is there a way to get off video? Because it takes my whole screen. Thank you. Okay, anyone else for public forum? Just raise your hand. Oh, we got somebody else, looks like Mr. Morrow. Joe, you out there?
Good evening. This is Joe Moreau, Old Depot Road.
Yes.
It's just something about the budget that we spoke about the other night with this welfare director's position. And I should have mentioned it then. The person I was referring to had no idea about the heating oil assistance program. So she was able to utilize that to stay in her home longer. And the other thing that I was surprised at, this resident had no idea also about the town that can reduce your property taxes based on your income. So I agree with Scott and the others that voted for this, that maybe it doesn't have to be a technical person as I thought it would have to be, but just someone that could communicate and meet with residents, you know, without creating policy or anything else, but just to make them aware of just those two programs alone was able to keep the senior in her house much longer than what she would have been able to. I'm sure there's other programs that I'm not aware of either, but, you know, it's to help the residents of our town. That's all I have to say. And again, thank you for the great job that you guys have all done with this budgeting process. And I agree about the Charahoe budget. Thanks again.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Okay, anyone else for public forum? Okay, having seen no other hands up, I'll proceed with the agenda. Under my report, a couple quick items. The Ashaway Sportsman's Club had to cancel its Huck Finn early June. It's usually around the 9th or 8th of June, the same time frame as the town referendum. It's the first time in 70 plus years it had to cancel it with no date to resume it this year. So it's unfortunate. It's a great event that is totally funded by the Ashaway Sportsman's Club for the community. Very disappointing, but sign of the times. Last item under my report is we had we had a budget adoption on May 13th. The council approved a budget. Hopefully the taxpayers and residents will also support the council and approve our budget coming up in early June. We collectively reduced it about a penny from what it was the last time. So the current mill rate is $18.28 per thousand based on the new assessed value. There was a little bit left over in fund balance that we all collectively decided to keep there because of the unknown with the revenue projections going into next fiscal year. So a lot of unknowns with that.
Frank, would
yes.
you let them know how little it was?
Yeah, so the amount that we had at our discretion to perhaps, you know, lower the mill rate even further or do whatever the council saw fit was about $61,000. So
Oh, it became 30 after an expense, right? Wasn't there?
no.
Oh, no, it's still at 60?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, that generator is going to be kept in there for reimbursement purposes. So, yeah, so it wasn't much, but because of, again, the unknowns on the revenue side going into next fiscal year, we decided collectively to keep it in there. So that was good, very prudent of the council. So thank you. That's all I have under my report. Next up is old business number 1, Charahoe budget vote status. Discussion regarding sending a letter to Governor Raimondo relative to council objection for the Charahoe School Committee to enact a budget without a vote of the residents. This was requested by the Council Vice President Scott Bill Hurst. Just before I hand over the mic to Scott, I did get a call today from the Charahoe chairperson of the school committee, Ryan Callahan. Again, he conveyed to me the intent of the school committee is to have a vote by all the residents of all 3 towns for this particular referendum for Charahoe. The one idea that seems to be gaining traction, and hopefully it seems like it makes sense to me, but we'll see what the rest of the council says on it, but is to add on our referendum, our budget vote referendum, to add another section to it, for lack of a better word, to vote on the school budget. So each of the three referendums for the town budgets will be also added, there'll be an added line item for the school budget as well. So all the residents will be able to weigh in on both, I guess, simultaneous. Seems to make sort of sense based on where we are time-wise, but so anyway.
I don't understand
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
said. Can you explain it further?
So Ryan was going to maybe call in. I'm not sure if he had a chance to call in or not, but Ryan, if you're out there, just, you can text me. I'm not sure what your phone number is, but just text me and I can unmute you if you're there. But what he had said was that John Anderson's preparing a letter that he's going to send to all three towns, basically getting our feedback on adding the Charahoe budget to our town budget referendum as a separate item, obviously.
Okay,
So we have, vote yes on
two
our.
votes.
Exactly, right.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, so it seems that, based on the timeframes, there's not a lot of time left. And also Chairman Callahan said that, if it ends up being level funded, then so be it. But they want to make sure that all the residents in all three towns are heard, and that would be their objective. So anyway, before we get into this letter and whatnot that Scott wanted. So anyway, that's that. Scott, you have the floor.
Can people hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I did compose a letter today, and I would respond to this first, and I think it would be great for Hopkinton to vote. But the problem is, I think the town of Richmond still has their financial town meeting, and I don't know how they're going to address their annual budget. And usually, and I think Charleston has a referendum. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But the three towns do not decide their town budget on the same day, and usually the Charahoe budget is a separate vote. So the mechanical problem I see, and with this, is the fact that you wouldn't have a vote on the same day, and I don't know if that would be an impediment to the success of doing such a thing. My issue is to have people vote on it. The problem that I see is that a vote on a Charahoe budget might not be conducted in each town on the same day, and whether or not there'd be a problem with that. I'm just putting that out there.
Could I speak? This is
yes.
Lisa.
Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
I believe Charlestown may have already sent their mail ballots out, so their ballots are done and printed. Ours has been sent to the Board of Elections with the caveat that there may be change to it, but I had to get it down there so that it's prepared and ready to go when it's ready to go. So I don't know about Charlestown being able to include a question on Charahoe's budget since their ballots have already been mailed out to all the citizens.
Good question. When is their vote anyway, Lisa? Charlestown's?
I want to say it's June 1st, June 1st or 2nd. I think it's June 1st.
Okay.
But it boils down to, I mean, I think that mechanical problem is a problem. And if in fact Charleston's already sent theirs out, we haven't decided to do a paper ballot, which I don't have a problem with, by the way.
We do a paper ballot all the time. You mean a mail
No.
ballot?
Mail ballot.
Yeah, I mean, a mail ballot, I stand corrected, a mail ballot. Because I think we want to enfranchise as many voters as possible. And I think that's what this is about. The mechanical problem is the fact that each town decides their town budget. And in the town budget, when you look at the town budget, it says on the top education, you can't really touch it because it's the amount of the town's allotment to fund Charahoe. But it automatically becomes a part of our budget after the Charahoe budget is passed. The education amount is whatever the respective town share is. But I would like to discuss my letter because I think that it's something we should look into. We don't know where this is going to play out. And I think I would like to have a letter sent to the governor. And you can also add to it that it's a possibility this is going to be worked out by the local towns, the three Charahoe towns. We can put that in the letter. But the fiscal year ends June 30th, and I think people, and this, including myself, are really sure that their ability to vote on the general budget and the town budget is not impaired or denied. And I can qualify that and add it to the letter to the governor. But I like to read the basic, what I wrote to the governor, so that people will know what I wrote today, and any additions or corrections, and the letter should be sent. My concern is, here we are in the middle of May, a little past the middle of May, fiscal year ends June 30th. And I know it could create a problem in a timeline situation. Not saying it will, but it potentially could. I remember years ago when we had the financial town meeting format in the town, and somebody went in the town and adjourned the meeting, and we didn't adopt the budget, so they had to have this is when Lincoln Arman was governor, and they had to have a special ability to keep the police department going because a budget wasn't in place by July 1st ago. But let me just read, just so people know what I've been up to today. Sent to the governor was just for the town council. Just a potential letter that could be worked on. Governor Raimondo, the challenge of our, I made a mistake, spelling error, but it should say, the challenges of our times challenges democracy and self-government of the people. Hopkinton has risen to the challenges caused by the restrictions caused by the virus matter. Locally, we value the right to vote on budget issues shared by all voters. We, being in a 3-town regional school district known as Terre, are impacted differently by the budget. Every town impacted differently financially. The school vote normally held in April was not held. Then the town vote is held in June. We need assistance and understanding from the state to preserve the democratic right to vote so all voters can participate in the process. In addition, good numbers are needed to plan for appropriate state aid. In closing, any assistance in fulfilling our governance responsibility would be appreciated. However, to repeat, the right of voters to vote on budget matters should be preserved. That right to voters should extend to both the local town vote and the regional school vote. Very truly yours, Frank T. Landolfi, President Hopkins Town Council. I wrote that today to, be worked on by the council, but I'm just, the town council, this is the last regular meeting in May. We have 2 meetings in June. The fiscal year ends June 30th. And I'd like to hear from the council whether or not we should at least send some type of letter, maybe this letter with some changes, perhaps, in case this thing falls through, because what we have right now is we have the town of Charleston, which is in our school district. They've already sent their ballots out, apparently, which doesn't include the school numbers. And then you have the other 2 towns, Richmond and Hopkinton. So what do we do? I mean, it's possibly that we should at least alert the governor there could be a problem, and we might require some assistance down the road, so the people's right to is preserved to vote. Thank you.
Okay, that's Scott's letter and comments. Sharon or Barbara, you want to go next?
I can.
Okay.
This is Barbara. I don't have a problem with sending the letter. I do think it needs to be rewritten to make it a little more concise and representative of the council. However, I don't see a problem with sending it because it is specifically says that we wish to enact a budget with the vote of the residents, which I think is important and certainly should be done. But I also think that I know Mr. Landolfi has talked about it, but the school board also wants a vote of the residents. Under no circumstance do they want to have the school board make that decision. So I think we should be perfectly clear about that. I do think it's important. I do think that sending a letter doesn't hurt. And I do think Mr. Hearst's points of view are well taken. So I don't have a problem sending it as long as it's rewritten. But as far as encouraging the government to realize that the residents are very adamant about voting on both the municipal and the school budget, I do think is important. However that occurs. And I know that the election board is very concerned about how that will be done in an efficient and effective manner. And at the same time, be able to work around the coronavirus. So I'm okay with that as long as it's rewritten. And I know Lisa and Frank can probably put that together.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you, that's all.
Thanks, Barbara. Sharon, any comments?
Yeah, I think obviously the letter needs to be written and sent. We need to absolutely preserve the residents' rights to vote on both the Charahoe school budget and our own budget. My problem is, I'm thinking about the second part where I'm wondering if people don't want the school budget, would they, if it's on the same ballot or whatever you want to call it, that the town budget is on, would they vote down both? I think it's a little confusing. On the other hand, if they want the town budget, they may vote for the school budget because it's, you know, you do one yes, you'll do another yes. But how will they know what it's really going to be, what the total impact will be if they don't have the school budget vote first on its own? And I'm still thinking that that's really the way it should be, but those are my comments so far.
Okay, thanks, Sharon.
I'd like to offer
Wait.
a mo-
Hold on one
Okay.
second, Sharon.
Let me
Sylvia,
get in here.
Sylvia, go ahead. Sylvia.
I agree that we need to send the letter, and there are elements of Scott Hurst's letter that we can grab hold of. My concern in reference to the governor is that I understand that there is a bill. There's information floating around about authorizing a school committee to vote on it without a vote of the people. So I agree. It's very important to make sure that the governor knows that we have to have a vote. However we do that, we're open to following any procedures necessary. You know, we're talking about number one, sending a letter. The difficulty with the Charahoe budget is what Sharon brought up. And if we have a vote the same day, let's suppose, okay, you've got a school budget, yes or no, you've got a town budget, yes or no. And if it happens that the school budget gets voted down, then the number that we have in the town budget, of course, would be incorrect. So I don't know, in this instance, now according to the Charahoe Act, of course, if they don't have a voter-approved budget by July 1, they have to revert to the previous year's budget. So there's a lot of complications in here. And let's suppose there is a mechanism in the town charter. In the event something happens during the year and you need to call, well, we don't call it a town financial meeting anymore, but you have to, there is a mechanism to deal with an issue that is in the budget. If it's an emergency, I don't have the charter in front of me, but there is a mechanism to deal with that. But the problem is, how is there going to be a vote before July 1? So obviously, something has to authorize the town to have a different date and Charahoe to have a date because they didn't have it in April. So it gets into number 2. So it's not so easy to decide. So think about that. You're going to vote up or down on 2 budgets the same day. That I understand why you would do it, but it leads to more complications. So I guess we need to, there has to be, and by the way, we need to deal with Hopkinton. We don't care what Richmond or Charlestown, whatever date they pick, that doesn't matter to us. We do what we're authorized to do, whether it's the same day or a different day. But obviously the school budget, if we're going to do it a different day, the school budget has to be up or down first.
Yeah, good analogy, Sylvia. You know, this is Frank. Again, when I talked to Ryan, I was at work. I haven't spoken to him in a long time. He's made the suggestion about having both referendums be on the same ballot. It sort of made sense to me, at least initially. Now, obviously, knowing that Charlestown's ballots have been mailed out, that probably can't happen just on that assumption alone. So I'm not sure where they go and what they've been doing the last month or two, you know. So I'm going to try and reach back out to Ryan and encourage a little more communication to the councils or towns and find out where they're at, because it doesn't appear that this 2 referendums on the same ballot at each respective town vote on their budget is going to work. In light of what was mentioned today by Lisa, the clerk, so with Charlestown. So,
Frank?
Yes, Barbara.
I would actually agree that I don't think we should do the municipal and the school budget on the same ballot. I think it should be separate. But I do believe we can push our municipal ballot to the end of June, allowing the Charahoe district to vote at the beginning or the middle of June, so that we have at least the beginnings of that, whether it is voted down or is voted up. But I think that it is important to separate them. And there is no reason why we cannot move our budget. It seems to me we can still move our budget into July if we have to wait for the school budget. And we'll just simply make a referendum that says we're going to continue our budget into our 19-20 budget into 2021 while we, wait for that final vote. It seems like that would be a possibility. It gives Charahoe, basically almost all of June to get a vote in front of the people. And that is important. But I do agree that it's difficult to do both. And it is certainly much better for us, even if we vote the last day in June, to have the school budget in front of us first as part of our own budget. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Frank?
Yes, Sharon.
Okay, I would like to ask Lisa, I know I'm the kind of person who goes, asks all the steps involved. And so backing up from, say, having the thing on the last day in June, I don't want to go into July. How much notice does Lisa have to have out there before, I want her drop dead date of when she needs to know and inform people that we're going to have the town budget referendum, say, on June 30th, for example. How far back in the month of June does she need to know that, number one? And how is it going to be? Is it going to be in-person vote, or is it going to be mail-in? And if it's mail-in, you got to include a lot of lead time for that too. So I think we need to go backwards. Let's say, okay, say June 30th, go all the way backwards of when Lisa needs to do it. And the same thing for the Charahoe referendum. If they have to have a mail-in thing, probably the same lead time is required for them, and it's even shorter because they need to do it before we do it. So I think there needs to be some coordination on that, and we need to get more information along those lines.
Please,
Well,
Lisa.
again, I'm not good at predicting the future. I can only give you some roundabout dates. I know that since you've already adopted the town's budget, and so we were on that time frame for June 9th. So if you went ahead a month, you need about 5 or 6 weeks safely. That may be too much time. Maybe it could be done quicker than that. There's no mechanism in our charter for a mail-in ballot, so I don't know if there has to be some sort of resolution by the town council to enact that. I don't believe there's any mechanism in the Charahoe Act to do a mail ballot either, so I don't know. So the same question would hold true for me in regards to that. If it would be a special resolution that has to be adopted, I imagine it can be done. Right now, the difficulty we're encountering with getting a polling place staffed is to get people who are willing to work. We did get enough people, and I want to thank Councilor Hurst for his assistance. We do have enough people on June 2nd. I can't state that we're going to have enough people on 2 more dates in the month of June. I want to think that by then we'll have some confidence that the uptick has flattened and, we're on a way. I can't predict that. But there's a lot of things that would have to be worked out, such as it would be easier if it's a all-day referendum in some regards. There are some questions, though, I have when it pertains to mail ballots, whether or not we can do that or not. I don't know how Charleston went about it. I'm not familiar with their budget referendum process. I just know that they do have one as well that's similar to ours. So I don't have an outline.
Are they gonna do one that's mail-in or in person?
Mail.
Charlestown has sent out mail ballots to every voter in Charlestown. Whether or not they have to have a polling place open, they may have to, but I'm not that intimately involved with some of their processes, but I think that they may have to have one polling location for those individuals who will only vote in person.
All right.
Mr. President,
Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
I'd like to offer a motion that the town council president be empowered to send a letter to the governor and any other state official, state or federal official he deems necessary about preserving the right to vote on the school and the town budgets. Using my letter and also any other concerns which were expressed tonight. I make that a motion, and that's pretty open-ended.
Second,
Hold on,
Motion this big or the
second for discussion.
whole thing?
hold on for a minute. What do you
Oh, I
want?
didn't know if you could, Lisa could repeat the motion.
You just said it.
Oh, I know.
Well, let me repeat the motion. I make a motion that the council president be empowered to send a letter to the governor and any state or federal officials he deems appropriate, including my letter and any other thoughts that were expressed this evening, so we can expedite this matter, so the people can vote on the Hopkinton town budget and the Charahoe school budget, and their voting right is preserved.
Wow, okay.
Well, that's pretty good.
Second,
Yeah, okay, yeah. A motion was made by Scott. Barbara, I believe, seconded it. Any discussion on that, folks?
Yeah,
Sylvia?
and
Okay.
obviously you'll work with the solicitor.
Yeah.
Because there are
And,
some legal issues. What can we do based upon the charter? I mean, you can enact emergency ordinances. I mean, so I'm not a charter guru. If I need something, I have to open it up and look. I can't think of anything, but anyway, work with solicitor, work with the manager. And hopefully the governor knows that we have to have a vote. And Charlestown does it different. Richmond is completely different. They have a town financial meeting where you go and you vote on it, and that's their town budget. So it's different for all of us. And if our budget fails, we have to revert to the previous years. Charahoe, if the budget fails, normally they get to have at it, decrease it, goes back to the voters. So it is complicated.
Not sure they'll have enough time to even do that.
No, there wouldn't be enough time if they're held to the July 1 deadline. So we need a vote sooner than later. You're going to need to, not in addition to just the letter, we need to know that and that involves number 2, that you work with Lisa, the Board of Elections, the Governor's Office, Department of Health, and Bill's been doing that, except for the Board of Elections, I think. I don't think you've been working with them, Lisa has. But you got a nice little core group, I believe, that can present options to the council. And we don't need to wait until weeks for the next council meeting. If you think you've got answers and you need to pull us back, call a special town council meeting if you think you need to. So.
correct.
You got your work cut out for you, everybody.
All right. Sharon or Barbara, you have any other further comments? Are you guys good?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm fine with the motion. I just don't see, I just have a problem with how this is going to be resolved for the Charahoe part. I just don't see that happening well. And I would hope desperately that we do not have to go into July for our vote. So it really does need to be coordinated with the Charahoe School Committee.
Yep, I agree, Sharon.
Frank, yeah, I agree with Sylvia, though. If we need to call a special meeting to do something in specific, we can do that. I think that you, our EMA director, Bill McGarry, our lawyer, I think you should all work on it as tightly as you can so we can get these votes, both the school budget vote and the municipal vote, done in an expeditious manner. If you need to call us back, Sylvia is absolutely correct. Call us back for a resolution or whatever you need to get it accomplished. But Sharon's also right. We would like to have it done by June 30th. Our budget done, which meant we need Charahoe's done ahead of time. So I'm sure that can be resolved in-house.
Yeah, so again, when Ryan Callahan, the chair of the school committee, sends the letters out, probably tomorrow, I guess he is anticipating sending those out to each respective town. Yeah, obviously, we'll find out what's in it. He only shared one aspect of the referendum with me today, and obviously, it doesn't seem like it makes sense based on what we've talked about tonight. So my only concern with waiting on our municipal referendum towards the end of June, if it does, and I hope it doesn't get defeated, we don't have a lot of time to recover from that and try and have another vote, I guess, right?
We don't get another.
Oh, we don't. That's it. Okay.
That's right.
All right. Yeah.
We don't get another vote, yeah.
So June 30th is a good date.
Yeah.
It's my birthday, too.
All right.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Bill McGarry.
Happy birthday.
Bill McGarry would like to say something.
You might want to check with Kevin McAllister, but I think that if the charter doesn't prohibit mail-in ballots, then I think you're pretty much okay to do it. But it's probably best to get a direction from him. I mean,
Kevin, you hear that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. The chart is pretty geared toward the way we do it in non COVID-19 virus times. I know for the presidential primary election, the governor, I think without legislation, was able to authorize anyone who wanted to vote by mail ballot to do so that way. I think I'll work with Bill and the rest of you to get the correct answer, but my instincts tell me that we're going to need some kind of state authorization to have a strictly absentee ballot type thing, and we may be able to get that fairly quickly, but we'll figure it out. The charter, and I've been through it a couple of times in the last week with these issues in mind. The charter doesn't really address it directly, so we'll see. But we'll be right on it.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a motion on the floor that I made.
Yeah, no, right. Yeah, just everybody's weighing in on it. All right, motion was made by Scott. I think Barbara seconded. Any further discussion on this particular topic? Having heard none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Do we have to look at number 2, or were they
Yes.
both combined?
Yeah. Yep. Okay, thanks. I'll work with Bill, Kevin, Lisa on the letter. And then I'll also share any information that comes up through the chairperson of the school committee as well. Okay, thank you, Scott. Second item under old business, discussion of legal considerations for conducting the Hopkinton budget referendum for fiscal year 2021, including but not limited to possible consideration of and possible vote upon a resolution of the town council to change the date of the Hopkinton budget referendum to allow the town sufficient time to prepare and send out mail ballots, discussion and possible vote upon the use of mail ballots for said Hopkinton budget referendum requested by Council Vice President Hurst, and discussion and possible vote upon whether to send the governor a letter asking her to ensure that the Charahoe School Committee does not approve a budget for fiscal year 2021 without a resident vote from the Charahoe member towns, requested by Council Vice President and Councilor Thompson. Sylvia, do you want to start off with number 2 here?
Lisa, this is Sylvia. Have you had to advertise the budget?
No, not yet.
Oh, good.
Not as far as the warning of the
Yes.
meeting, no, not yet.
And
no.
what's your deadline on that? When do you have to get
Well,
that in?
A warning has to be out 7 to 8 days before the event.
What about
So
the?
if we,
Oh, go
what
ahead.
about the what?
I was going to ask, what about when you advertise the budget in the previous year's budget?
I do not have that paperwork home with me, so.
Do you know when that goes?
It's already been, it's been advertised, the proposed budget was advertised 30 days prior to the financial town meeting.
Mhm.
I don't have my budget worksheet home with me, the schedule.
No, you
So,
answered my question.
Yeah, but there are dates that we have to accommodate in that as well, that we have to figure into however we move forward.
Oh, well, I think it's clear, obviously, to me and probably a lot of folks that we can't have our town financial meeting on, vote the referenda on the 9th.
Correct. Looks that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Now, I guess if we want to decide tonight, which I think we probably want to, because it's a very important
We
item.
need a target.
We need a target date. So I mean, the 30th is a Tuesday.
That's good.
That's good.
I just get a little nervous with having it be the last day. So, I mean, I don't know. Unless
Does it
I'm,
matter? It's either up or down.
yeah, no, I'm just saying
Correct.
any technical glitches. I'm just thinking worst case. But anyway, if everybody wants to do the 30th, then that'll certainly, hopefully, give the clerk's office enough time to prepare for mail ballots if that's the direction we go in. Lisa, what are your thoughts? I mean, do you see any issue with going on the 23rd or the 30th, one way or the other?
You've got me speechless because this is really difficult subject matter, and I want to do everything as smoothly as possible. I think that's probably going to have to be. I mean, that a Tuesday is probably appropriate because we usually have voting done on a Tuesday. So since it falls on the 30th, that's as good a Tuesday as any.
Okay.
But I guess if you wanted to do it on the 29th, I mean, then you're still not going to be able to vote on those resolutions that happen after the fact within the month of June. The tax resolutions and such, they will not be enacted on in June if the budget is adopted or rejected on June 30th. So I don't know how to address that.
Does the 23rd help? If we do it Tuesday, the 23rd, Lisa?
I think that's, we could try to work with everything. What we'll have to do is we'll have to come up with an outline backing up the dates. If it's going to be a mail ballot, we're going to have ballots printed. We're going to have mail envelopes, both the ones that go out to the taxpayers and the all postage prepaid and the ones coming back to the town hall. We got to figure out when the tabulate, there's an awful lot to factor in. And the ballots have to be printed, so I think there's probably agencies out there that will take up that sort of work. But I don't want to make a promise I can't keep.
Lisa, this is Frank. I guess you mentioned something about tax, something else that wouldn't, if we decide to make the referendum on the 30th, what is it? What is it that can't be?
Usually, all right. So if you had held your budget referendum on June 9th, we would have the results on that evening, and so we would know going forward that on June 15th that you would adopt those. You'd set the tax resolution. You'd authorize the the finance director to borrow. You'd forgive the previous year's overages or under. There's. I don't have that information for you. It's in the charter.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And that's usually done on the town council meeting following the regular vote, which would be on the second Tuesday of the month in June. That won't happen. I don't know if that makes a difference for if you have your budget vote on the 30th of June, there's no way to have a town council meeting within the fiscal year to adopt those resolutions. So that's another question.
Yeah, I agree, Lisa. I mean, I think we need to back it up just to, so maybe the 23rd, which is that prior.
23rd.
That gives us hopefully enough time to get whatever the ballot structure is going to be. And then also enough time to adopt the tax resolutions and everything else, give Brian the authorization to borrow and all that. So.
Yeah, the 23rd seems to make sense. The only thing I would be worried about is the turnaround with printers, because they might be printing a lot of stuff too. You don't know.
I don't know what that's going to take.
But at least it gives us a fighting chance. If we do the 30th, we don't have a chance. And
Right.
I think we'll have to have a special meeting that week if we need to approve those.
Yeah, I'm for the 23rd. That's about as laid out, and we can do all this other stuff that we have to do afterwards. We'll just have to hustle after the 23rd.
Right. Perhaps having another meeting.
I've got a suggestion.
And then,
This is Sylvia. If we went along, if we did do the 30th, which of course gives us more time for Charahoe to get that vote done, even if it is the 30th, we're already doing things that have never been done since we've had a charter. So I don't see that, unless Kevin can tell us different, I don't see why even adopting, if the budget is up or down, you still have to do the resolutions and you just do them at your first meeting in July. What does it, the resolutions, is it, I mean, it's not as, I don't know.
The fiscal year starts. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, I think the safest thing to do is, and this is what I would recommend, you target the 23rd for the new election date, the new balloting date, and build some flexibility into it. Whereas if there's no other recourse, we could do it on the 30th for these different contingencies that could occur that we cannot control. So I would just recommend a motion to target June 23rd as the date for that election, that referendum rather, and if necessary, no later than June 30th. Just building that flexibility. So if we miss a day or two, we still can do this, and we can still get the resolutions done by June 30th.
Well, Sylvia was pointing to me whether I was going to make the motion. I'll let her make the motion. I'll let Barbara have the second. I'll let Barbara have the second.
Oh, I already made the motion. I moved what Kevin had suggested.
Okay.
Target date.
Right, and I seconded.
Okay, great. Kevin, just a quick, before we possibly vote on this extension of the townwide referendum, is there anything in the charter that precludes us from doing a mail ballot from what you've seen?
I don't think so. But I don't know if that'll fly on the state level. That's the thing. But we'll be able to work all that out if we set the target date with some flexibility for the week that follows that. I think we'll be good. We'll be able to figure it all out.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. All right. So we have a motion made and seconded. Scott, do you have a comment?
No, number one, historically, we did adopt the town budget years ago when Armin was the governor, when we had the financial town meeting format. We actually, we didn't have a budget in place by June 30th. So historically in the town of Hopkinton, it has happened when we had the town meeting format years ago, when somebody made a motion not to to adjourn the meeting. I remember well because I was there. The other thing is I'm involved in a primary as a candidate for delegate to one of the national conventions, and the law was changed then, and I'm not saying, and they're encouraging people to vote absentee, but the polls are still open. So whatever, I just want to point those things out. But so many things that are in law, and that was set by the law, the date of the primary, for both parties was set on a certain date. But anyway, I'm just going to point that out, and I'm going to vote for the 23rd. And I thank everybody for assisting so we can address this mechanical problem we have dealing with voting. Thank you.
May
Okay.
I, this is
Yeah, go
Lisa,
ahead,
may I
Lisa.
ask a question? I just wanted to comment that that year that they adjourned the financial town meeting without setting a tax rate, shut the town down. It shut it down and it caused a lot of chaos. So I don't recommend that.
Well, I'm
And
not,
that only occurred, just as Lisa said, because they walked out, the moderator was, you know, a kid and he was new and he made a mistake and he let them adjourn the meeting and people started to walk out before you could stop them. And there was nothing you could do because you couldn't.
It was done.
They had, people walked out to the parking lot. So your meeting was over, but it was because no tax rate had been set.
Right. And there was many resolutions that the town council had to deal with to keep emergency services in place. There were layoffs. There were shortened hours. It was, I was here at that point and it was not easy it was complicated like it is now.
I'm
Well,
not
let's try to
advocating that,
avoid
but I
it.
just pointed out a historical fact.
Okay.
Exactly, but we'll try to avoid that historical fact happening again.
Yeah.
Yes. Wisely spoken by Councilor Capalbo.
Sorry, let's move on.
All right, so we have a motion made and seconded. Any further discussion on this matter, folks? Council? Having heard none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you all. We'll work towards the 23rd with some flexibility. Thanks, Kevin and Bill. Okay. All right, first item under new business, discuss, consider, and possibly vote to award professional engineering and related consultant service contracts to Crossman Engineering of Warwick, Rhode Island, and Beta Inc. of Lincoln, Rhode Island from July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. Bill, do you have any comments on this?
As always. Thank you. Bill McGarry, Town Manager. As always, we go out for competitive bidding with an RFQ for professional engineering and related consultant services. Our current contract expires June 30th. I worked very closely with Jim Lamfair. We went out to bid. We got 8 bids were submitted, and both Jim and I selected Crossman Engineering, who's currently on board, and Beta Incorporated as our 2 on-call engineering service firms.
Okay.
I move that we award the professional engineering and related consultant services contracts to Crossman Engineering of Warwick, Rhode Island, and Beta Inc. of Lincoln, Rhode Island, from July 1,
Second.
2020 to June 30th, 2023.
Second.
Okay, Sylvia made the motion, Sharon seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. I thought you were going to
Aye.
ask for discussion after the motion.
Go ahead, Sharon.
I just wanted to commend the town manager and Jim Lanphier on the way they went out for bid. That's exactly what I used to do when I was director of administration for the Department of Architectural Engineering Services at UConn. I think you did an excellent job, and I wanted to give you your kudos. Okay? But I also do want to know, is there, maybe we should, as these guys, as we use their services, maybe we should have some kind of written feedback for the record to say whether our people, the Hopkinton people, think that they're doing a good job. And so I don't know if that's Jim Lanphier, or if that's Bill McGarry, or if it's the planning board. But I think we should have a record of whether the town is pleased as we use these engineering services.
Now, you mean the town is in the town administration or council? What are you talking about, Sharon?
It would seem to be between the planning board and the planner, because they're the ones mostly involved in choosing and Bill McGarry, mostly involved in choosing of when they want to use these engineering services.
I think I could speak for Bill real quick and say, there's no way he'd recommend this if they hadn't done 100% or 99.99% good job. So they're
Right, but I'm saying going forward, I just think we ought to document it, that's all. As you use them, people ought to say whether they're satisfied or not. That's all I'm just saying.
All right, well, all right.
I sort of agree with Sylvia that the town manager and the planner would know whether this worked expeditiously and efficiently. Having a written record might be useful if that's something that Bill and Jim would like to do. But they certainly have an ongoing record of whether it was problematic or it was smooth, because they have to deal with it every day.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying I think that it should be in writing for other people to see.
I understand, and I said if they'd like to do that, that's fine.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, well, the motion was already made and voted on, but anyway, all right, well.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't going to vote against it. I just wanted to add, I thought that you were going to go make a motion and then you open for discussion and then vote, but it didn't work that way. So I didn't get a chance to get my points in. That's why.
Yeah, point well taken. Point well taken.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. All right, so you got the green light on Crossman, Bill, so that's good. Next up under new business number 2, gravel bank registration renewal. Renew approved Kenyon earth removal registration renewal application.
I move that the application for the Kenyon earth removal, the registration application be approved.
Second.
Okay, I think Sharon snuck in the second on that one. Motion made by Hurst, Sharon seconded. Any further discussion by the council? Having heard none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, that's unanimous, I believe. Okay, thanks all. Number 3, under new business, discussion, existing and potential future procedures to ensure that the town is protected in terms of being reimbursed for legally mandated out-of-pocket expenses advanced as a result of applications filed by zoning, planning, and other land use relief. This was requested by Councilor Davis. Sharon, you have the floor.
Okay. Lisa had put in our packets last week 2 letters that she had sent to attorneys for solar developments. One was a solar hearing that ended in October of 2019, and the last fees have not been paid. And I think, and the third request was in March. So I wanted to know, what can we do to make sure those fees are paid? Some of the choices are, at this point, obviously the letters didn't work, so maybe they should receive a call by the lawyer, and then I want to know what other kinds of redress the town has legally. I know right now you put a hold on people's driver's license when they don't pay certain things. So is that a possibility? This is when the solar hearing has already been done and the decision is rendered, so they're not coming back before the town. So I'd like to know, in that instance, what our alternatives are.
Yeah, Lisa, that's your office, I believe, so maybe you can share some your experiences and suggestions, I guess.
Right. Well, we try to monitor and bill out for those fees periodically throughout the duration of a procedure that's before the town council. There are many instances in the ordinances that state that they are obligated to pay certain things, and typically what I do is I bill out the attorney who presents the matter before the town council, and that attorney usually makes sure that the individual who's required to pay it, pays it. I would think in a lot of these matters that have been before the town council, I followed that practice, and the attorney either sends it to the landowner, or when it pertains to solar, perhaps it's something that the solar company or the other company that wants to develop it is obligated to send it. But with that one particular matter whose decision was rendered back in 2019, and that the matter is done and said, I've received nothing back. So I am uncertain. It just stays in as a debt. I don't know if it could be, I don't know what the options are and the alternatives.
Kevin, you want to weigh in? I know you may have made a phone call.
Yeah. Councilor Davis called me last week, and we discussed this issue. She requested it be on the agenda as well. And with her encouragement, I contacted the two lawyers, the two attorneys who received the past due invoices. They both got back to me right away. I'm hoping that that will result in the collection for these two things. And if not, right now with the COVID-19 crisis, at the federal level, there is a freeze on most collection items. I don't know if this technically falls into that or not, but that affects this, at least for the immediate thing. But I think more to Councilwoman Davis's point, we can consider a couple of things. We consider seeing if we can get an advanced, almost like a bond from certain developers in advance to make sure the town is not left holding the bag on some of these expenses that are required by law. Or we can come up with a collection process which would include them being required to pay attorney's fees for collection efforts. So there's a few things we can do in terms of moving forward. I'm hoping that we can get these two accounts satisfied without waiting for that process. But I think we can consider both a before we have a problem and after we have a problem procedures that we can probably put into effect fairly quickly. And I'm happy to put together a draft action plan for the council to look at. This is a solvable problem.
All right.
Frank, I just think that makes good sense. I think we should have Kevin proceed with that.
Okay, thanks, Barbara. Sylvia?
Yeah, hi. When I read what Sharon, this paragraph and this agenda item as it reads, when I read it, I took it a different way. I didn't know it was about money being owed. And so given how it does read, I wanted to, so what I will add is, as you just heard Kevin say, perhaps it might be in bond in advance, and that way you know, and whatever's left gets returned to them. But I wondered if also Kevin could consider the following. For instance, when we had to have hearings in the schools because we didn't think we could fit them here, and IT, for instance, came to every meeting to set up the audio, and that is a cost to the town because he had to go that night. So that's just an example. And I'm wondering if there's a way to recoup some of these costs, because it falls on the town to, because this is mandated, you got to do certain things in a certain time frame. What about the IT? And I'm talking employees. What about the planner? What about legal? Are there other expenses that perhaps these developers or whoever's requesting these hearings, that they also have to pay for any staff that needs to attend? I mean, I'd like Kevin to look at that.
Yeah. Good, Kevin.
I'm happy to look at that going forward. We definitely cannot go backwards. and try to recoup money that's been spent for past hearings and so forth, but I'm happy to look into that as well. I have a feeling that won't be as easy to put together an action plan as the stuff Councilor Davis was referring to, but I'll be happy to look at that as well.
Okay, yeah, collective bargaining agreements, everything else. I know that.
Well, there's a lot. There's a lot to it. I mean, people have a statutory right to apply for a certain land use relief, whether it's zone changes or development plan approvals, and they don't have to pay. They shouldn't. I think there's a kind of limitations as how much of those costs that cost the town can be, passed through to the developers. So we'll look at it. It's just a little tricky on that.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
We have to vote on that.
No.
Okay. Okay, Mr. President.
Discussion.
Yeah, go ahead, Barbara.
No, I said it was just discussion
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and consensus, and so I think Kevin will move on with that.
Yeah, I'd like to make an adjournment I adjourn in memory of the late Charles Leonard Niles Jr., who served as Deputy Chief of Police of Hopkinton under the old system, and also in memory of Alden Thompson, the father-in-law of Councilor Sylvia K. Thompson.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.